Yeah, so here we go again. It's Sunday. I am not where I thought I was going to be at this time because in my mind, this appointment was at a friend's place for the child's birthday. Apparently, they're coming to just to meet me. Not for an appointment with children's birthday, just because I told them I'd be out of town soon enough. Which I guess means I got the gift for the kid without being able to give it to it, so I'll just give it via the mothers. Good news is it's Sunday, which is equivalent to bank holiday in this country, which means don't got to pay for parking, otherwise parking here would be hella expensive. Like this it shan't be. Oh, sorry for that, that's a bit much. There we go. Just need some airflow, you know. I ended up smoking significantly more on the day I last talked with myself than I thought I was. I ended up with 22 total. And going into yesterday morning, because surprise, I stopped this at 10 to midnight, and I was more than an hour away from home.
3 channels started.
Yeah, camera is alright, I know. I was more than an hour away from home. On my way home, I had 4 smokes that night, which counted to yesterday's total. And beside that, I believe yesterday I had a total of 12. So it's not that bad considering I already had some counting toward yesterday's total in the waking phase of the day before. Today I actually managed to wake up rather reasonably, but I didn't manage to get out of bed all that reasonably, so I guess the nighttime driving will be secured. I don't got to worry about that, you know. My circadian rhythm is screwed enough that that's going to work just about fine. Today's drink of choice is Paulaner Späti because that's what I got a crate off, and I had one in the fridge, so cheers. I got best part of 3/4 an hour remaining before the appointment. It's Sunday, time is 17 past 1 in the PM. It's rather humid, rather warm, 25 degrees, 25.5 degrees centigrade. Some cloud coverage, but not much, and very sunny. I'm not too fond of the weather today. But, you know, when I've got to live with the weather when I've got, it's not like it's within our power to frequently change the weather. Yeah, we can make it rain on demand, but I cannot. And even then, it can only rain for so long before the sky is dry. This is halfway across town where I am now, and it took me approximately half an hour to drive here. I did have 2 cigarettes on the way, which is probably more than I should have in half an hour. But for that, I had very few yesterday. And I mean, yeah, okay, I was awake, and I was not quite in limbo, but I weren't far removed from it. Did manage to get some video games in, and beside that, I repotted my plants, both of them, and put them into my bigger garden, which I built over a week ago, based on IKEA table, with a lot of cling film and some alifoil, tin foil. I had wired up the lights for that day before yesterday. I haven't got a heatsink on them, even not a passive one. Not even a passive one, there we go, language. Which means they're only drawing about 50 watts, even those 6 50-watt cells, just because they haven't got adequate cooling for cooling down. Then again, it's almost double the wattage I had beforehand with 2 cells that were cooled. Very passively, just a small alley plate on the back. If I run across any scrap heat sinks, I'll probably pick them up. For that very purpose, in front of me, a person driving on their phone. Oh no. Horrendous. People learn to drive vehicles, man. You'd think people grow up, but I think phones make you younger. The moment people are holding a phone in their hands, it's like they're fucking toddler, you know. Funny how that works, really. On my way driving here, I did see some friends on the road out shooting something, I guess. because I know that all of them from film club, and they all know one another from film club. So odds are they're doing something with film, you know. Shows how even though this might be a grand city, one of the biggest of the country, I believe, it's still just a collection of villages, you know. It's not that grand after all. And yeah, okay, you don't... I was going to say you don't see people you know every day, just randomly, but I do, so... It's not like every time you drive somewhere you see someone, you know. Then again, with millions of people in a city, one have got to know a lot of people before one see someone every day, I guess. So I guess I know a lot of people by some metrics. Some arbitrary metrics I've determined, I'll admit it. I am fairly confident I'm going to repark before the appointment. We're meeting in a cafe. I got enough money with me for cafe, but not much more really. I think I'll just repark to be stood in the shade, otherwise the car's going to be boiling hot by the time I get back to it later, which is not going to be fun, you know. I mean, now I've already reached a point where I'm opening the windows and I'm talking to myself and there is noise pollution outside. Then again, you know, can't be too hot. Well, it can be, I can't be, so... I'm actually quite happy with the way I've driven here. I've driven by Navi because I haven't been here before. Well, this particular bit. But the owner of Film Club lived just down the road. Another member from Film Club don't live far from here. And it's crazy because now I've actually made another connection in my mental maps of this city. Just because I've driven a different way, you know. I basically aim to, within short periods of time, well, I think I already have some of it, but I aim to, over time, perfect it as my knowledge of the city, to the point where I could qualify as a taxi driver in London in this city, just because it's fun, you know, not having to rely on the Navi to get somewhere. Yet another car turning around without even indicating or looking. Yay. I believe this is the 5th cigarette of the day, I'm not sure though. One way in which I actually kept my cigarette count low yesterday is I didn't have the energy to leave the flat. Though I did have a phone call with my sister later in the day, which also takes some energy, I guess. Not because of my sister, but because of me, you know. But I didn't actually take any active cigarettes into my flat, which means I had to dedicate time to roll a cigarette and smoke it in my flat at the kitchen window. I think that significantly reduced the count, because sometimes I was like, oh, I'll roll one in 10 minutes. Half an hour later, I'll roll one in 10 minutes. And by the time you look around, 1.5, 2.5 hours passed since you've last had a cigarette, you know. It's a very sunny Sunday afternoon feeling. It's a lazy afternoon, you know. It's rather humid and hot. And yeah, this is not a pedestrian area, but considering this is a fucking huge city and the buildings around here are minimum 4 floors each, there is very few people out on the road. I guess just because inside is more pleasant. One thing I have yet to do with my current new bigger garden is I'll still have to sort the idea of filtration of air. For now it's not a problem because it's big enough air box that it don't smell, but soon enough it will start to smell. Suspiciously green. And eventually I'll have to get an activated carbon filter, activated charcoal filter, and and a ducted fan for that. For the moment, I'm just running it with a 5 volt 200 millimeter Noctua fan. They're really handy. I use them for getting air around the flat. I bought some quite a while ago and I've had them running most of the time since, and they're really nice. They're the 5 volt pulse width modulated, so I've hooked up cheap pulse width modulation circuits to them, and the 5 volt I'm just getting from USB. I've been window shopping quite some recently, and I'm more and more so getting in the mood for doing DIY projects, also including electronics, which is usually the bit I don't like, just because the moment you have software you have to interact with a computer, you know. But I'll have to keep reminding myself, first off, I'm currently hella broke still, and second off, I have other things to do. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about my thesis, but I'm still going to have to actually write it up, you know. And the writing is not going to solve itself. I'll just have to sit down and do it. And currently, in my mind, the time I do spend with this first multi-annual migration this year will be dedicated writing time. I really believe it will have to be, because I am relying on that. I mean, I'm spending some time doing research in the odd writing here and there right now, but realistically I'm not doing remotely the volume per time, remotely the temporal density. I'd have to actually meet my minimums, which means I'll have to have dedicated writing time, and I suspect where there is fewer distractions I'll have an easier time doing so. I am really happy about having the practicable from my former place of internship. I got it in the back right now. That's something pleasant, you know, because I'll just be able to go somewhere in the sticks and set up on a clearance, just with laptop or iPad, a practicable and a keyboard, and type away, which is what I'm going to have to, because otherwise I'll not manage the volume. In that regard, for powering the iPad off grid, I do got my Patona V-mount 99.5 watt hour batteries, Sony V-mount style, but not by Sony, by Patona. That is too fast. You can get a P/D tap adapter from V-mount batteries, which usually have that, to USB-C power delivery, but I don't even need that, because my my V-mount batteries happen to have a USB-A 5 volt out, which is real handy. The only thing is I lent them to a fellow member of Film Club, and I have to get them back today. Though that member of Film Club apparently won't be there, so someone else of their production is supposed to give them to me. They haven't even reached out yet. I'm hoping it goes smoothly, because I really don't want to not be able to lend people stuff in the future if I have the remotest chance of needing it any time after. Then again, usually that is a lesson hard learned, to not lend tools or so. I don't want to be biased against people I haven't lent things, and I don't want to assume for them to not return it, which means I'll happily lend things if I can, you know, just to find out whether I'll get screwed or not. With the assumption of not getting screwed, of course, because if I were to get screwed I wouldn't lend something. So that's something I'll have to cross. I'm hoping they'll return it later when I go to Film Club. Today I am, for a change, not opening up, and not opening up the register either for drinks, the bar. I'm just not opening up, full stop, which is something I very rarely do. I mean, sometimes I don't open up the door, but I always open up the register and the bar. And today that is not of my concern. I announced so beginning of the week. I bumped it day before yesterday, and I believe yesterday or even the day before, I then got a response saying, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So someone else is doing it. So I don't got. One thing I've been considering doing, which is economically irresponsible, is joining film club for dining tonight. Because usually after film club they either go Vietnamese or Indian dining. Not fine dining, but restaurants, still cost money. And currently my circadian rhythm is fucked enough that I believe I wouldn't be able to sleep anyways. So I may as well join them. Though it'll cost me money, I won't be here for a few weeks, so it'll be a temporary see you later, instead of see you next week. See you not even 7 days time. In front of me, the car that turned illegally earlier without indicating is now stood on a corner, and the person who drove it drove another car that was parked in front of it to be stood even more so on the corner. They're both very illegally parked, and it's kind of disturbing to me, but I guess they work in, that's how they usually do it, and no one complain. And if people complain, the plot don't give a shit, because this is spelling after all, It's kind of sad, because that is dangerous, even if just a kid want to cross the road that is coming along this road. This is a T-junction with a road going off that way. If a kid just want to walk along this road, the long arm of the T, and they have to cross that road there, they're in fucking danger of being run over, even adults, just because they can't be seen through a car, Particularly because it's a box car with the back closed. It's not transparent. And that is the reason there is rules, but plenty of people do not give shits, so... I have recently realised what I thought was me dodgily parking all the time is most certainly legal. Just because, yes, I do, even now, I'm sticking out of the parking space just because this car is, 3m40 wheelbase with 5m40 length total. And parking spots usually are about 5m10 in length. But I'm not actually illegally parked because there is more than 3 meters 5 centimeters remaining of road width, and I'm not near a corner also, so on this side of the road, that being over there's a T-junction, but over here it's not, so as long as 3 meter 5 I'm fine, and it is. That's actually quite a weight off my shoulders, having realised that and said it out now. Because I was parking like that because I didn't have any other choice, and that it was illegal and tolerated. But I truly believe it's fully legal, which is very satisfying. With that kid's toy plushie I got for a friend's kid, I've actually made the effort of wrapping it up. Though admittedly I didn't wrap it up in pink paper, so I just wrapped it up. Well, that'd be almost sexist, wrapping up in pink paper. Because I don't know how they later on in life choose to identify the kid, that is. I believe they're just about 5, so they've still got a long way ahead of them, and forcing pink paper upon them would not be cool. But I haven't even got decorated paper, so I just used endless packing paper that you get in shipments for stuffing the rest of the box, and is also more economically first off, it's economically more viable. It don't cost nothing, you get it for free with parcels. And second off, is also environmentally more friendly, because first off, it's recycled paper in the first place, and I'm now upcycling the recycled paper again. And I kind of like the look of brown packages, just in brown endless recycled paper, I think it looked pretty neat. And I managed to get away with just a small strip of tape, which is enough to write their name on it, and that's all I've written on it, and all the tape I used. I did remove the labels, and I did not add the receipt, though with kids' gifts I believe it's a good practice to give that to the parents. I don't see how the kid could not like this, so that's what they're getting. No backsies. uh, with this town, though I understand it doesn't work like this legally in Germany, for humans, logically it does, and that's rightful in my opinion. Well, it's correct that it does like that logically for humans. With the rules not being enforced, no one's going to take them seriously no more. And yes, legally in this country, even if a rule hasn't been enforced in 100 years, the state reserves the privilege to start enforcing any rule at any point in time for no reason whatsoever. I think in this town it'd be hard to do culturally. First, because the plodder are also from this town, which means for them is also normal, and they wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised for them. They aren't even aware it's dodgy, what some of the parking and halting people do, because they do it themselves, admittedly. I think that's a dangerous road to be going down. I know I'm falling to slippery slope fallacy myself. I don't mind falling for that fallacy, and I frequently do. And I don't think it's fallen if I'm aware of falling for it, so meh. A scooter with an indicator on, driving straight, even though there are indicating, yay. People. In the city, people do not give enough a shit about operating heavy machinery. That's something I can say with fairly high certainty, sadly. With wherever I end up getting a job later on, whether it be my former place of internship or somewhere else, I've been thinking about a lot, doing things by the book and how far I'm willing to have others stray from the book, because obviously there is some responsibility on me if I'm working anywhere. And I've come up with the idea that I'll be happy to let people stray from the book as long as I understand why the book is the way it is, and they aren't hurting the spirit of the book. People stray from the book, and I deem it dangerous, or I'm asked to stray from the book, and I deem it dangerous, I shan't. And if people don't like that, they can go screw themselves. Made up my mind on that, just because realistically, by the book in this country might at times be a bit bullshit. For example, if one goes smoke, that is legally speaking a smoke break. It's not working time. But also, that means if you're doing your lunch break, you can't be doing anything work. Anyone from work talks to you, you aren't there. And that's just not a very social thing to be doing. So I don't mind being there in a lunch break. And if someone needs something, I can help them. But I'm also not going to clock out and back in every time I go for a cigarette, you know. And I won't be going for cigarettes if there's work to be done, man. It's just the healthy kind of mindset, you know. I understand why the book is the way it is. And that is to protect employees and to protect the company. If the company do not mind me not doing things by the book, I shan't. If they insist on me doing it by the book, hell, I'll do it by the book. And they might not like it. Because if I show up half an hour early, I'm going to clock in half an hour early because I'm at bloody work, you know. And then I'll also end up leaving half an hour early. And if I only have half an hour's lunch break instead of an hour, I'm leaving another half hour early. I don't think that's in any employer's interest. And honestly, I like doing whatever I'll end up doing. I like doing a good job. So I'm not too fussed about minute by minute, as long as I can show up around working start and leave by the time working end is, the point in time, which I don't think is asking all that much. It might not be viable with too big an org. If I have a too big company for employer, But in that case, I'll cross that bridge then. And who knows, by then I might not be smoking anymore. Fingers crossed, optimistic line to ourselves we are. I'll still be smoking, you know. But one have got to consider the option. And even if it's not smoking, it's something like a coffee break or so. Then again, hydration is part of being human, of staying alive. Same as going for a primary hygiene requirement, also known as a toilet. Those are things which you can do in working time. So, something I'll have to wrap my mind around further when I'm not thinking about my thesis. Just because I do got to get this degree. I don't want to spend another half year doing uni shit. I've actually been invited by uni for a goodbye party for the current location uni is at, as they are now finally moving after about a year after it was announced they would be. That's something I actually don't mind attending, the goodbye party, just because why not, you know. I know the people. The individuals all do a good job. It's just the org have irresponsibility through hierarchy. In my book, at least that's how I choose to interpret it. As in, even if everyone do their job, there's someone outside of the org whose job it is to bless something, and if they don't, no one can do nothing. Which is, but I guess that's the problem with big orgs, you know. I'll actually be right back. I'm just going to go repark the car, so I'm stood in the shade for later. No, I don't got to do it later. Plus, I don't got all that long to remain, so I'll be right back. There we go, I'm back. That's a lot more pleasant being stood in the shade, I can tell you now. It's already more pleasant. And I've only been stood for a minute. Not even. I've only just arrived. I'll try and avoid these jump cuts. First off, even though I've done one just now, surprise. First off, it break my mental flow to the point where there's almost two separate issues. Issues as in versions, sessions, and secondly, it also increased the workload for me because I have to tell the phone, stitch these two clips together, and then the phone take up to half an hour to do it. For some odd reason, the phone take for bloody ever, but I don't mind because I'm doing this only on the phone. Crazy thing is, I know how to get to wherever I'm going later today, as perhaps driving that friend home, but if or, then only the latter. Most certainly also film club. I know how to get there from here, and I know how to get there the best way from here, without having to look at Navi or nothing, because I know where I am, because my mental roadmap have been improved, my knowledge. Another thing I've been meaning to talk about, even last time I talked to myself, not a couple of minutes ago, but day before yesterday night, is I got a couple of printouts in the car. I've decided I'm going to print out the list of diplomat registrations for countries. So if I see a diplomat car that's from a country, I can see what country they are. Just because why not? I'm keeping this in the car for now. It's by Parliament, Abgeordnetenhaus Berlin. So Parliament, or House of Representatives Berlin. So it's the official source, so might as well, you know. Another thing I print out the day before yesterday, just because I was looking around in my digitised shit of what I got from my dad's, is the answer as to why I have my reg plate. No, I'm not going to say my reg plate on the interwebs, but I might as well show this here. It's Magoo Tubes, an illustration done by my dad. This is only a print out of a digitised form, but still. This AC30 amplifier is still in the family, this guitar is still in the family. So, it's very historic, and though it might have some monetary value, I don't think I'd ever consider selling them, and I don't think my sister would either, so they're going to remain in the family for good, I guess. Or go to a museum or a friend of dad's. One of the two. One of the three. Counting. There's two types of people, those who can count. Don't know where I was going with that joke. I'm pretty sure that is half a joke. Oh no. Still got 14 minutes remaining. My friend, I do not believe, has arrived yet. I can see the cafe we're meeting at out the driver's side window, which means you cannot see it in the reflection. Yeah, it's really very summery Sunday afternoon. Odd how that feel, you know. Past few days I haven't been smoking remotely as much hemp. Well, day before yesterday I smoked like 4 hemp blunts or so, maybe 5. But I haven't been smoking remotely as much hemp as I would like to, just because I'm too lazy to stuff the cones I've rolled. I've got like 8 pre-rolled blunts at home. The only thing is I still got to put the hemp in them, which is a good activity for while watching the YouTubes or so. But in recent past I just ain't had the capacity to, haven't considered it enough. I don't know, something like that, you know. Cross that bridge when we get there. I will have to for the road. I'd originally planned on the earliest extreme being tomorrow night, Monday night, for hitting the jack. I'm now thinking it's going to be Tuesday night at the earliest. Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. That's why I hit the jack, not hit the road. Of course, why not, you know. Fun with language. With my online window shopping habits, mentioned them earlier, I've started some dangerous trends. I haven't followed through on them, so that's all good. But I started looking at, for example, 8-inch subwoofers for the car. That reminds me, I ought to look if the car stereo even support output for sub, or if I have to window shop for one of these as well. You know, you never know. It's always good to know. I'm getting distracted again. Yeah, I believe it'd have an output, which I believe might be for a sub. Might even be for 2 subs, a right and a left. Because it's not for regular speakers, because they're wired into the car. So it's just a chinch. But I highly suspect I can put a sub in here. Then again, that's required tearing apart the dashboard to run a wire from, first off, the stereo unit to under this bench here, and secondly to run power from either the fuse box in the dash or from the battery in front of the dash, in front of the firewall, to that subwoofer. But somewhere I do really like the idea, and there is a few kick samples which are more feeling for that kind of stuff than others. One example is Flowrider Low featuring T-Pain is really good bass sample. I quite like that. There's a few others. Kingdom of Rain, that's a really good bass sample as well. It's just, you know, when I say bass, I mean bass drum as in kick. I don't actually mean bass as in bass guitar or double bass. I don't know why, but that's just how my brain works, man. That's all something I'll have to figure out eventually, but for now, I certainly do not have the budget to buy an AliExpress subwoofer and wire it up. Even though they are the same you could buy on Amazon, they are about a third the price, and I believe the only thing that's different is the badging. So that's neat. Other things I've been looking at, which would be in my interests, at least near future, to buy, not doing so now because it's irresponsible, is things like wire ferrule crimp, so you can have caps on the end of your wires before you put them into connectors. There is a nice one by Knipex. Surprise, they aren't cheap. They cost like $50 a pop or so. But you can get ones that look very similar. The only difference is they don't say Knipex, for less than a tenner. And then the ferrules for less than a tenner as well, you know. And that's like not much money, but it improved the quality of one's work significantly in my book. For just yesterday night, for my garden, I wired up a plug on the end of the lighting I'd wired up the day before yesterday, and I had to cut the ends again because I twist the ends to put them in the plugs. But if I'm putting a plug on something, I have to twist the ends again because beforehand it's mangled, you know. So and that's only a 1.5 square millimeter cross section cable, but considering I'm running at peak 70 watts, usually 50 watts of load, I'm not concerned for that. Which I guess is good news, I don't know. It's just funny how brains work, you know. I'm checking the watch because I got a hard limit on this, and I believe I'll have one cigarette and then I'll say my goodbyes. Though at this time I am not buying, so I'm not doing any buys. Not goodbyes either. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do the multi-annual migration, and I suspect this year it might only be biannual. Biannual being twice a year, not every other year, as implied by this year. But I'm gonna add it on, otherwise it's ambiguous, and ambiguity in language is beautiful, but is also a direct hindrance of efficient communication. Funny how one see the purpose of language, one use it. For I can be very indirect if I want to, I guess. Only problem is it goes over people's heads. Then again, I don't know if that's a problem or if it's a feature. Because in the end of the day, when I am being indirect, it's to not be rude. Because, yeah, I've titled one of these Be Direct and so on, you know, but being rude is not always a solution. Surprise. And subtlety in language can easily go over people's heads, I guess. Which might not be the kindest way of using it. To go over someone's head, but, you know, it's a feature, it's not a bug. Well, or it's a bug on their end, but it's not a bug of language, I can tell you that much. For language, it's rather beautiful. What one can do with language. I mean, I'm sufficient in 2 languages, that being English und Deutsch natürlich, also Pelzisch strikt genommen. But I haven't mastered any, and I don't think I will in my lifetime. But, you know, it's things one can try. And I might one day take on another language, who knows, just because currently I can't communicate with even half the world. Well, English might have actually spread far enough by now that enough people would understand me, but still, you know, just something to be able to speak with some old timers in some countries that are not heavily Western influenced, as in English and or American influenced, I guess is the way of putting it. One thing I do quite frequently witness is people mistaking someone being educated for them being smart and not educated for being dumb. That's totally not the purpose of smart and dumb, or education, to be fair. You can use education as a form of shortcut for experience, but you can't use it for smartness. That's just something you got to think about and develop in your mind, man. People outside making noise with kids, oh no. There we go, now the kids should not be audible, and this way I can upload this on the interwebs, fancy. And in a moment the camera's going to make noise because I turned on the ignition to wind up the window, yay. That's a fun language phenomenon as well. We say wind up the window, though this car has electric window winders, which don't quite wind, but still, you know. There we go. That's the camera. I actually prefer manually wound windows, at least with my previous cars, because they were small enough that one could reach both sides from the driver's side. With this car, it's almost 2 meters width without the mirrors. It's 195 without the mirrors total width, so is about one length of me inside across. Crazy. Wow. Which means I cannot reach a driver's side, passenger side window winder, if it were one, from the driver's side seat. Which means here, electric windows is more than a comfort. But if they are not necessary to wind up the windows from the driver's seat, I actually prefer the cranks, just because they don't go wrong. I mean, come on. Yeah, they can fail as well, but if they fail, it's long beyond when electronics would fail. I guess I'm lucky enough to be able to say, once again, checking privilege and all, I do still got a car with cranky windows. Many people do not see this as a feature. I think it's a feature. Ooh, as we're talking about features, I actually, as I was looking through my dad's stuff, and I found this here, Magoo Tubes, nice illustration. Magoo's Tubes. I also found the original advert for this car, which is quite pleasant, because I actually got it in writing which features it's got. And I hadn't realised, but the electric assist for closing the side doors is a feature, apparently. I don't think it is, because if it breaks, you're kind of screwed. But they don't open themselves up or close themselves up, but they do assist on the last bit, you know. Which is a pain in winter if it freezes. Checking the watch once again, and I believe I'm gonna have to go, so yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing this friend, trying to do my best to stay in touch with some people, and I believe there's someone I'll try and stay in touch with for long haul, you know. Hope you have people like that too. Stay safe, I'll see you around, cheerio.